Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
We believe that all change has come to America.
Believe me. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a imagination.
Turn up your mind.
Now, tonight, for example, they're trying to change the story. At this hour, the New York Times is trying to distract you. They have a story that Trump wanted Mueller fired sometime last June, and our sources, and I've checked in with many of them, they're not confirming that tonight. And the president's attorney dismissed the story and says, no comment, we're not going there. And how many times has the New York Times and others gotten it wrong? All right, so we have sources tonight just confirming to Ed Henry that, maybe Donald Trump wanted to fire the special counsel for conflict. Does he not have the right to raise those questions? We'll deal with this tomorrow night. We have a shocking video of the day to bring you, by the way. This footage comes to us from Arizona, where you see that red SUV, high-speed police chase.
Here's a police chase for you, everybody. Distract you. Oh, my God. He had to do a 180 on within the hour. The show, which is not easy when your head is shaped like a block. Oh, wow. That was unbelievable. Just like, they were going to tell you it was fake news. They were going to tell you it was false. They were going to tell you what Trump was telling people in Davos. This was...
Fire Robert Mueller.
Fake news, folks. Fake news.
What's your message today?
Typical New York Times fake stories.
Mr. Trump.
Oh, it's not fake news. Fox is fake news. Sean Hannity actually opened his show denying the entire story while the Trump surrogates were all over the TV saying things like they accepted the reporting and, what's the big deal? Well, he didn't fire him, but, so he wanted to. So what? This is amazing. And the surrogates are all out there. And you want to see Fox and Friends, the president's favorite TV show? They said that, God, it's like somebody had to squeeze them, like Darth Vader, just squeeze their little throats to make them do this. But they said, quote, we have to tell you about it because it's a headline on the New York Times. But then they said, do you even care?
Meanwhile, let's take a look at the cover of the New York Times up there in the corner, Ted, this corner over here. There's a big story that apparently the President of the United States last June wanted to fire Robert Mueller because the president felt that he had a bunch of conflicts of interest, could not adequately be the special counsel.
That's right. And so the actual, but the president in Davos, which we're going to bring some of that sound today, he doesn't think the story was all that true, maybe calling it fake. Take a listen to the president.
Fire Robert Mueller. What if fire Robert Mueller?
Fake news, folks. Fake news.
What's your message today?
Typical New York Times fake stories.
Did you try and fire Robert Mueller?
So speaking of typical New York Times, you look in the first paragraph, all of this reporting based on 4 people who are told of the matter.
Right.
It also screams of a leak from the special counsel, because we did know a little bit about this. We heard back in June that there were talks of the president wasn't happy with Bob Mueller. What would he do?
Right.
But some new details that may or may not actually be true.
All right. Well, the president says it's fake news. That happened last June. It's something we have to tell you about because it is a headline in the New York Times. What do you think about that? Do you even care? Something you probably do care about is immigration.
Oh, my God. The girl in the cocktail dress is now telling you to ignore the front page of the New York Times. This is how they deal with, stories that the president is so stupid. This is unbelievable. Firing Mueller would be the dumbest thing that Trump could have possibly have done. So does anybody doubt that that's exactly what he wanted to do? Come on. That's I would say it seems that Donald Trump is even more reckless and stupider than even I thought. And I think that he's an idiot and completely reckless. So this is like a new low. And think about this. His catchphrase is "you're fired." That's his catchphrase. What would The Apprentice be like if he actually had to consult his lawyer and have his lawyer do the firing, and then his lawyer would say, I'm not down for it. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's wise to let, Snoop Dogg go. or, don't let Meatloaf go, or Gary Busey, shouldn't be on in the first place and you shouldn't have him. And then the show just limps along because Trump won't fire people. That is what this says in this New York Times story. Here's what the New York Times story says. It says that last summer, it became clear to the White House that Robert Mueller was looking into an obstruction of justice case against Donald Trump after he fired Comey in May. And Trump's reaction was to immediately obstruct justice. Hashtag stable genius, everybody. Oh my God. So his reaction to an announcement that he was being looked at for obstruction of justice was to obstruct the prosecutor who was looking at him for obstruction of justice and obstruct justice again. I mean, being a lawyer for Trump, this Don McGann guy, I told you, this Don McGann guy is dirty. I have never in my life, since Don McGann was named White House counsel, and his client is not Donald Trump, you understand. His client is the White House. So, it's just all so strange, that, Trump is telling the guy who's supposed to protect the White House and the office of the presidency, he's telling him to fire the special prosecutor, meaning he should do it over his signature so that, what? He takes the it's just so ridiculous. But remember, Don McGann is the guy who keeps trying to pack the bench with these friends of his, these ne'er-do-wells, the Matt Petersons of the world who never tried a case, Jeff Mateer, who says that trans children are proof that Satan's plan is working, Brett Talley, who wrote, blogs for the Ku Klux Klan and just so happens to be married to Don McGann's chief of staff. And didn't disclose it to the Senate Judiciary Committee to force the Republicans to actually have to say out loud and humiliate these three in public because they were trying to get even with Don McGann. Because, Senator Kennedy was like sitting there going, Don, and there's plenty of stories in the news, but you ever wonder what all this paper is? These are news articles that I know I'm going to need again. And hell yeah, we need them again. Let's just go over it. First of all, when all this was happening, the Trump surrogates, including Sean Spicer and now Sarah Honey Boo Boo and Sean Hannity and every surrogate, Jay Sekulow, they were all on the TV talking about firing Mueller. Fox couldn't say it often enough. They need to fire Mueller. Get rid of Mueller. Get rid of Mueller. And all this is happening. They're out there pushing for the firing of Robert Mueller because that is what the White House wanted. And Sean Hannity couldn't stop saying it, and not because Sean Hannity can only hold one thought of it in his head at the same time. No, this is so ridiculous. You've got the entire. I don't know. It blows your mind because it's like the secret society thing too, okay? Yesterday, the day before, it was all, there's a secret society inside the FBI. The FBI has a cabal. We got to denigrate the FBI. We got to ruin the FBI. And yesterday we spent the entire day showing you that the New York field office of the FBI is full of pro-Trumpers. It's full of James Kallstroms. It's full of Rudy Giuliani's. It's full of active agents who are willing to talk to Rudy Giuliani and leak things to James Kallstrom, who then repeats them on Fox News in order to get James Comey to feel the pressure to open up Hillary Clinton's email investigation 11 days before the election. So if the FBI was cruel or unusual toward Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton during the campaign, which one would you say the FBI was crueler to? Were they mean to Donald Trump, the FBI in New York? No, they were mean to Hillary Clinton. And by the way, I'm no Hillary fan, as you know. But that's just a fact. So now you got this story out here that Maggie Haberman wrote with Schmidt. There are reporters whose names you ought to know. And if you don't know Maggie Haberman's name, then you're not reading real news. You're not reading, one of the greatest reporters who's ever come down the pike. If you're not reading Maggie Haberman, if you're not reading Michael Schmidt, if you don't know who Entus is, if you don't know who David Korn is, if you don't know who Tom Hamburger is, you're not reading a newspaper. You're just not. And I don't care which one you read. You could read the New York Times. You could read the Washington Post. For all I care, read the Wall Street Journal today, because the Wall Street Journal confirmed Maggie Haberman's reporting. Here's the first line in the Wall Street Journal's article commenting on the New York Times reporting. The first sentence is, President Donald Trump last summer directed, see, they have these meetings about, should we say order? Because he ordered the firing of Robert Mueller. He just couldn't get it done. He's terrible at firing people. Who knew? But this is what the Wall Street Journal, President Donald Trump last summer directed the firing of special counsel Robert Mueller, who's leading an investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, but backed off when his top White House lawyer, that's Don McGann, said he would resign rather than carry out the order. A person familiar with the matter said, which means they have a source too. Maggie Haberman had 4 sources for her story. So, because her first line in her story is, President Trump ordered the firing last June of Robert S. Mueller III, the special counsel overseeing the Russia investigation, according to 4 people told her the matter, but ultimately backed down after the White House counsel threatened to resign rather than carry out the directive. So I'm wondering who these 4 people are. I got a running list of, ideas on who they could be. Could be Reince, because he's obviously cooperating with Mueller. It could be Bannon, because he's got to testify next week to Mueller. It could be Sean Spicer, who's already talked to Mueller and was lying from the podium like the sack of crap he was, and now wants his name. He doesn't want to go down with this sinking Titanic. Could be Jeff Sessions, who was just interviewed last week. It could be Don McGann himself, because he's been interviewed by Mueller. We don't know who our sources are because we're not supposed to know. But somebody's confirming the story for the Wall Street Journal. She's got 4 sources. That's 5 people. So I made a list of 5 possibilities. It could be Don McGann himself. Don McGann has threatened to quit, I can't tell you how many times. And every time the reporters come out and say Don McGann is threatening to quit, one of the reasons why he threatened to quit before was because he was very uncomfortable with the Trump-Kushner meetings. He was very uncomfortable about how Jared was wandering into the Oval Office and they were closing the door and there was nobody in there and there was nobody, no White House counsel included, no court reporter included, the chief of staff, at that time Reince Priebus wasn't included. And they thought it gave the appearance that they might be sharing the story they were going to tell eventually to the special counsel. And that just the odor of it, the appearance of it, was enough to make Don McGann say he was going to quit. Then in June, when Donald Trump said to Don McGann, I want you to suspend the rules, because there are rules about firing a special counsel. No, the president can't fire a special counsel. Rod Rosenstein in the executive branch, he oversees a special counsel and the investigation. So Rod Rosenstein would have to do the firing and rules would have to be suspended in order for that to happen. So Donald Trump told Don McGann to tell Rod Rosenstein, for the man, you're fired. Can't do it. Can't do it. You can't do it, Sally. I can't do it. I don't have the nads. I don't have the nads. So McCabe said, I'm not doing it. Now, McCabe, like I said, McCabe wants to stay because McCabe is, he's the one that Sally Yates went to in the first place to say, you need to fire Flynn. He just lied to the FBI 2 days ago. And McGann knew about the FBI investigation in the White House because he asked Sally Yates, how did Flynn do? 2 days after. Now, Flynn was interviewed in the White House without a lawyer present, behind closed doors, and lied to them. He's subsequently been charged with that. Now, I have old articles where people are wondering, where was the meeting with the FBI? And, was it at the White House? And was there a lawyer present? Yes, it was at the White House. No lawyer was present. And yes, he lied.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
I'm David Pakman, host of The David Pakman Show on the Progressive Voices channel. Check out this clip from my show. The last segment of today's show, very, very heavy focus on religion. 2 stories about separation of church and state today, and then a voicemail that is also religiously linked. First story is from the world of the justice, or second story will be about the world of the justice system. This first one is about education. In the state of West Virginia, A bill has been proposed by senators which would mandate that every public school at least offer an elective class on the Old or New Testaments of the Bible or on Hebrew scriptures. It was introduced, not surprisingly, by 2 Democratic senators. Just kidding. Obviously, they were Republican senators in Virginia. I'm not even going to tell you their names since I don't care and they don't deserve anybody to know about them. Why do they want these classes to be offered at every school? Because the sponsors of the bill feel that to understand contemporary society and culture, you have to know the content of the Bible. Now, any normal person would say, wait, hold on a second. If the Constitution says there can be no establishment of religion, and then you mandate that only one religion, so-called sacred text, be taught, isn't that a violation of the Establishment Clause? It seems pretty open and shut, but let's think through what rebuttals could a defender of this bill give. One would be, hey, listen, it's not a mandatory class. It's an elective class. But it doesn't matter. The fact that one religion's, or I guess you could say, you consider the Old Testament a sacred text for both Judaism and Christianity, 2 religions have their sacred text taught in class and no others. That is an establishment of 1 or 2 religions over others. The other defense has been tossed around that if you're a states' rightist, we shouldn't pay attention to what the federal Constitution says about this. We should look at what the West Virginia state Constitution says. And I did, and it's still not okay. Section 315 of the West Virginia Constitution, called Religious Freedom Guaranteed, says, in part, all men shall be free to profess and by argument to maintain their opinions in matters of religion, and the same shall in no wise affect, diminish, or enlarge their...
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, time for a question of the day. Should the special counsel now be shut down? Yes, shut it down. Robert Mueller needs to go. Mueller needs to go. 100%. Mueller needs to step down, resign. The special counsel witch hunt ended. Mueller, he has to go. Yeah. I'm going to tell you right now, Mueller needs to get out. Anyway, should Robert Mueller, Rod Rosenstein, resign? I say yes. He needs to go.
The president should actually demand that he resign. The American people should demand he resign.
Mueller, get out. He needs to be removed. Mueller needs to be shut down immediately. Robert Mueller, who should be closing up shop, they must resign immediately. Recuse themselves, resign immediately.
The acting attorney general who appointed Mueller should fire him.
Mueller and Rosenstein need to go. Mueller needs to be recused. He should recuse himself. He should disqualify himself.
He should. He should never have accepted the position to begin with.
He needs to recuse himself. It needs to be shut down immediately.
Incomprehensible.
He must recuse.
He must recuse.
Mueller has a legal obligation to recuse himself.
If Mueller has any fidelity to the law and legal ethics, he will resign.
Robert Mueller needs to recuse himself and get out. It is time to focus on Robert Mueller. He must recuse himself. We've been saying on this program it's time for him to recuse himself. Should Mueller, should Rosenstein recuse themselves? To me, absolutely yes.
If this Washington Post story is true, then it is abundantly clear that Mueller must resign.
Now, both Mueller and Rosenstein need to recuse themselves. If you have any respect for the law, go.
But then last night, he's like incredulous.
Now, tonight, for example, they're trying to change the story. At this hour, the New York Times is trying to distract you. They have a story that Trump wanted Mueller fired sometime last June. And our sources, and I've checked in with many of them, they're not confirming that tonight. And the president's attorney dismissed the story and says, no comment. We're not going there. And how many times has the New York Times and others gotten it wrong? All right, so we have sources tonight just confirming to Ed Henry that, yeah, maybe Donald Trump wanted to fire the special counsel for conflict. Does he not have the right to raise those questions?
Oh, my God. How do they do that? How do they lie with a straight face like that? Now, that mashup is from the month of June, and that is the month when Donald Trump went to Don McGann and told Don McGann, go to Rod Rosenstein and fire Mueller. That is a mashup of what was said on Fox News beginning on June 8th with an appearance by Jay Sekulow. Now, this all happened apparently on the 12th of June. All right, so this is 4 days before Jay Sekulow, that lying piece of swill, got on the Fox News and told them what he wanted them to say.
Should the special counsel have to be removed now?
Well, I think there's a whole series of issues there. I mean, the whole idea that we've got a special counsel on this, to me, frankly, is absurd when we think about the fact that Loretta Lynch went on an airplane with President Bill Clinton while his wife was under investigation, and James Comey and his selective disclosure disease says that he's not going to bring charges against Hillary Clinton, but wouldn't leak to anybody or even say that President Trump wasn't under investigation until I think his lawyer made him put that in that written testimony yesterday.
All right, Jay, you're going to come back, Monica.
Yep.
Thank you. You know what this is? This is J. Edgar Comey's special counsel. This is now a big problem. And Mueller needs to, I'm sorry, he needs to be removed. I don't know what they've talked about. He seemed to run his entire commentary today and everything he was saying by Mueller beforehand. He only gave Mueller the notes. There's a lot of problems here that, to me, seem highly inappropriate, and I'm sure we'll be discussing in the days to come.
Yeah, I'm sure you will be discussing in the days to come, but you will be lying about them in the days to come. And guess what else is in this Maggie Haberman piece with Mr. Schmidt? The West Wing confrontation, where the president goes and orders Don McGann to go and order Rod Rosenstein to fire Robert Mueller. The confrontation that happened is known to Robert Mueller. Here's what it says. Mr. Mueller learned about the episode in recent months as his investigators interviewed current and former senior White House officials in his inquiry into whether the president obstructed justice. Okay, so now they need to come up with a reason. And so they're saying there's conflicts of interest, that Mueller had conflict. That's what they were bitching about back in June when they were screaming his head should be on a platter. Okay, here's what they said in June. They said the reason why Mueller should resign, should recuse himself, is because Robert Mueller was a member of Trump's Virginia Golf Club back in the day, and he resigned his membership in Trump's Virginia Golf Club in a dispute over fees. So Mueller is still nursing a grudge. This is the reason why he should recuse. He's still nursing a grudge that he doesn't belong to Trump's Virginia Golf Club anymore because he thought the fees got too high. He also said, they also were floating this one out there, that he had a conflict because he worked for a law firm that represented Jared Kushner. Doesn't mean he worked on anything that had to do with Jared Kushner. It's Wilmer Hale's a huge MF of a law firm. And I'm pretty sure a conflict check was run on anything Mueller was handling versus the lawyers who handled Jared. And they're not the same people. But if anything, if Robert Mueller was exposed to anything that had to do with Jared Kushner's legal situation, then he would know what an idiot Jared is and would be very unlikely to think that they could pull off any sort of illegal scheme. But that is not what Mueller was looking at. And then the third reason is because Robert Mueller interviewed with Donald Trump because Donald Trump wanted him to be the temporary acting FBI director while he went and picked Chris Wray. He didn't know who he was going to get. And he wanted Mueller to come in and do it temporarily. And they had one meeting about it. And I guess Mueller said no because he obviously knew that there was another offer to investigate Donald Trump, and he took that job the next day. So they're saying, so if anything, Robert Mueller is overqualified because he had been FBI director 2 times under both Bush and Obama. So, I mean, I don't know. So here's what happened. McGann refused to fire Mueller. And apparently, McGann made it known to other White House officials that Trump would never, because this is in the article too, that Trump would never do the firing on his own, that he didn't have the nads to do it on his own. So without McGann lobbying Rosenstein and Rosenstein doing the dirty work, Trump wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. I mean, this is crazy, okay? This is what it said. It said, after receiving the president's order to fire Mueller, the White House counsel, Don McGann, refused to ask the Justice Department to dismiss the special counsel, saying he would quit instead. McGann disagreed with the president's case and told senior White House officials Now, Fox News is going to distort this and go, oh, they were told of the story. They were told of, yes, by Don McGann. And perhaps Don McGann related personally to Mueller when Mueller interviewed him because he's trying to keep his hands clean. He's probably somewhere in the kitchen right now scrubbing. Mr. McGann disagreed with the president's case and told senior White House officials that firing Mr. Mueller would have a catastrophic effect on Mr. Trump's presidency. Mr. McGann also told White House officials that Mr. Trump would not follow through on the dismissal on his own. The president then backed off. But he did tell him that it would have a catastrophic impact on the presidency and would raise more questions about whether the White House was trying to obstruct justice in the Russia investigation. And I mean, you know, the president is saying in Davos, it's all fake news. It's just fake news.
Why did you fire Robert Mueller? You want to fire Robert Mueller?
Fake news, folks. Fake news.
Okay, that's his position, right? Then tell me, why was Anthony Scaramucci, first of all, what the hell is Anthony Scaramucci doing in Davos with the president? What the hell is that about? But he says Anthony Scaramucci talks to Chris Cuomo last night, and he says, I accept the reporting. So the president who he's with in Davos, they're all on their way back now. I don't know, you know, if Melania is happy or not about this. But anyway, so the president says fake news, calls it fake news when the reporters confront him in Switzerland. Scaramucci, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and Scaramucci is still up, and Chris Cuomo apparently could get a phone call into him. And Scaramucci goes on the TV last night and says he accepts the reporting.
I just accepted the reporting, but why is that coming out too?
Oh, I just accepted the reporting, bruh. Who talks like that?
I just accepted the reporting, but why is that coming out tonight?
Because this is when they got it.
His speech.
This is when they got it. It's irrelevant
Chris,
when it comes out.
Point number one, he didn't fire the person. Point number two, the president believes that there was no collusion. Point number three, despite only being in the White House for 11 days, I worked for the president for 18 months. I didn't see any collusion. Point number three, there's been news stories that had to be shot down and people fired over the Russian investigation. Point number four, Robert Mueller is still in his job as a special investigator. He is still in his job, and the president said recently that he expects Mr. Mueller to treat him fairly, and he obviously believes that he's going to be exonerated.
He also
You're telling me that a private conversation...
It doesn't matter if it was
Chris,
a private conversation.
A private conversation with your counsel. What are you talking
about?
Matter. It does matter.
It doesn't at all. Not to the truth of the matter asserted. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter that it was private.
Except when you have interloping leakers inside the White House trying to put a hurt on the president, which is what I said 6 months ago.
Irrelevant. How the information came out is irrelevant.
How it came out is irrelevant because it could have come exactly from Don McGann. It could have come from Sean Spicer. It could have come from, Steve Bannon. It could have come from Reince Priebus. I mean, Reince and Sean and Sessions and McGann have all been interviewed by Robert Mueller. And the reporting yesterday is that the president ordered it but wouldn't do it himself. He wanted someone else to have dirty hands. And once he couldn't find somebody to dirty their hands, he backed off. That's why Robert Mueller is still doing the investigation. And, of course, there's been a complete change in the legal team. Right around the same time in June, after Don McGann is asked to do a couple of things. One, talk Sessions out of recusing himself, and he said he would not do. Well, he actually did try and do that. Then he was asked to, look the other way when Jared Kushner is having private meetings with Donald Trump, which looked like they were trying to get their stories straight, so that when they were finally called for questioning, they would be telling the same story. McGann said, if you don't stop doing that, I'm going to quit because I'm the one that's going to take the fall. I'm supposed to be protecting the presidency, not you, the presidency, this White House. And you're sullying it. You're making it look like, you're conspiring in private. That's not supposed to happen in the Oval, right? Okay, Kassovitz is the attorney at this time. Mark Kassovitz, who's been Donald Trump's lawyer for 17 years at that point. He had been Donald Trump's lawyer since 2000. Kassovitz is arguing, fire the freak, fire him, be very aggressive, don't ever let this go too far. Now, remember, Comey was fired in May, and this is in June. This is 2 weeks later this is all happening. Kassovitz is saying, get rid of Mueller, get rid of Mueller, get rid of Mueller. Sekulow goes out on June 8th, tells Fox News he's got to go. We got to get rid of Mueller. The next week is full of Fox News saying nothing but he's got to go, he's got to go. He has to go, he has to go. Blah, 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 over and over and over. And then, total incredulousn's yesterday. What, he asked Mueller to actually go? I mean, this is such bullcrap. It's unbelievable. It's so easily debunked. Well, he couldn't have asked him to go. That would be wrong. You were asking, he tweets everything you freaking say. And he's also talking to Sean Hannity after every single show. The president is. So anyway, this all happens in June. Kassovitz wants Mueller fired. This is the legal team that Trump surrounds himself with. And as soon as McGann refuses to tell Rosenstein to do it, Kassovitz quits. Suddenly, Trump's lawyer for 17 long years just suddenly up and he quits. Donald Trump is no longer his client. Go figure. Kassovitz just recently, he was the lawyer for Donald Trump in the Trump University fraud case. But this was a bridge too far, and he quits because they wouldn't fire Mueller. He wouldn't do it. And McGann wouldn't. And McGann is only doing it because he would go to jail if he did. So this is just like, it's the most unbelievable thing to listen to them. Just to listen. And Scaramucci, he's like trying to say to Chris Cuomo, why don't you believe the president? Why don't you believe it? And he's trying to tell him, because we just came off of 2 days of saying there was a secret society inside the FBI, and there is none. And everybody knew it. Fox News knew it. And Rush Limbaugh knew it. And everybody in the media knew it because there was a note attached to the disclosure of the text messages between Agent Strozak and Agent Page. Oh, my God.
Talking about text messages that they had to back off of, notions of a secret group that they had to back off of, saying that texts were missing because it was a cover-up when they knew that wasn't true, and now everybody knows it's not true as a matter of fact. Don't say that the reporting can't be believed because of the timing. Deal with what it is on its face. The White House hasn't denied it. They have 4 sources.
Chris, I did not say that the reporting cannot be believed. I didn't say it's dishonest reporting. I was listening. I didn't. I said it's a red herring. He never fired the person.
What's the difference?
You're telling me that inside the... Hold on a second. The president believes that there was absolutely no collusion in the Russian investigation.
Is that why he tried to fire the special counsel?
Yeah, not contemplating the firing. Time out a second. If he thought there was no collusion and he sat down with the White House counsel in a private conversation, the president in a privileged conversation with his attorney. I did go to Harvard Law School, and I know what a privileged conversation is.
You did go to Harvard Law School. Apparently you cut class because Don McGann is not Trump's lawyer. There cannot be a attorney-client privileged conversation between Don McGann and Donald Trump, because Don McGann does not represent the president. He represents the office. The White House counsel's client is the people. It's not Donald Trump. I went to Harvard Law School. I know what a privileged conversation is. Apparently you didn't learn anything. I know more than you, and all I got is an honorary law degree.
In a privileged conversation with his attorney. I did go to Harvard Law School, and I know what a privileged conversation is.
No, you
but
don't.
I also know that he had interlopers in the White House last June that were leaking information on him that was very unfair. You're telling me that your president is not allowed to have a confidential conversation with the White House counsel?
This is about the truth, Anthony.
Let me finish, Chris.
If Don McGann hadn't threatened to resign...
You're the one that's over-talking me. You don't want to let me finish.
Because this distraction about it's about leaks and Steve Bannon.
You don't want to let me finish because you know I'm making a lot of sense to your viewers.
Okay, you're not making any sense to any viewers because, frankly, he says, you're sitting here saying that he never asked Don McGann he never asked Mueller, he was never going to fire Mueller. It was never in his head. He never thought about it. He never said anything about it. You heard everybody, all his spokespeople denied that he ever said anything about it. He wasn't. Meanwhile, Jay Sekulow was on Hannity's show on June 8th saying he's got to go.
Should the special counsel have to be removed now?
Well, I think there's a whole series of issues there. I mean, the whole idea that we've got a special counsel on this, to me, frankly, is absurd when we think about the fact that Loretta Lynch.
Okay, it's the whataboutism. Well, of course Mueller has to go because we have to think about Loretta Lynch. What? Yes, that was disgraceful. There was no question in my mind that was wrong when Bill Clinton got on the tarmac and got on Loretta Lynch's plane. That was very, very bad. But that doesn't mean that what Donald Trump is doing isn't hideous. Oh my God, you have the entire Fox News crew calling for him to be fired.
All right, time for a question of the day. Should the special counsel now be shut down? Yes, shut it down. Robert Mueller needs to go. Mueller needs to go. 100%. Mueller needs to step down, resign.
I could run the whole 2 minutes of this. But, I mean, they just lie. They just sit there like, oh, we know it's not true because, he never asked for Mueller to be fired. No one ever asked for Mueller to be fired. Everyone asked. Sekulow asked. Chris Ruddy was on PBS.
To speak to Randi, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force.
Hey everybody, it's Brett from the Randi Rhodes Show. Independent media is the future, and Randi's leading the way. And it's ironic, the more freedom she gained, the more expensive it got. It's crucial now, more than ever, to keep this show pure and free of corporate influence so Randi can tell the hard truths. The first step to change is an unbiased media, and for that, we need your help. So please, go to randirhodes.com/support and subscribe, you bastards.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em. Yes, it's Herky Jerky in 2018. And for 2018, they're starting off with $5 off full packs of delicious beef smokies. Since Herky Jerky started in 1992, Herky Jerky's delicious beef smokies have been one of the most popular items, and for very good reason. The 100% beef meat sticks have just the right amount of snap on the outside and flavor on the inside. They're low cholesterol, high protein, guaranteed fresh, and the perfect snack for any occasion. This month, they're ringing in the new year with a discount of $5 off all full packs of their 3 kinds of smokies, mild, honey, and jalapeno. The full packs are 1.5 pounds. They include 30 long sticks. The discount applies to full packs only, but as always, if you buy any 2 packs of their products, you'll get free shipping. We hope everybody had a fun and safe holiday season, and we look forward to you enjoying Herky Jerky in 2018 with the absolute best and most delicious jerky anywhere in the world. Visit herkyjerky.com now. Again, herkyjerky.com, enter promo code SMOKY.
Whether you're listening to me, Mark Levine, each Monday and Wednesday,
or me, Leslie Marshall, each Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday,
you can hear us 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Progressive Voices Network.
Here's a sample of what you'll hear.
U.S. Senator Tim Scott said he talked to fellow South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham about hearing President Donald Trump's S-hole countries comment, and Graham confirmed to him the president said it. First and foremost, a guy with cojones, Senator Dick Durbin. He was the first one to say, look, I was in the room and the president's lying. He didn't say the president misspoke. He didn't say, oh, the president must have forgotten, is mistaken. He said the president's lying. And I have to say, when anybody, left or right, will admit the truth, whether it's Donald Trump lying or someone else, I commend them for that, and I commend Senator Graham for doing so as well.
Again, that's Mark Levine every Monday and Wednesday,
and Leslie Marshall each Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Progressive Voices Network.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
While the president has the right to, he has no intention to do so.
The president has not even discussed that. The president is not discussing firing Bob Mueller.
But will he commit not to fire him?
And cooperating with, he has not even discussed he's not discussed firing Bob Mueller.
I haven't given it any thought. I mean, I've been reading about it from you people. You say, oh, I'm going to dismiss him. No, I'm not dismissing anybody.
Are you considering firing Robert Mueller?
No, not at all.
Is there any chance at all that the president will try to fire Robert Mueller?
No, I saw a couple of people talking about this morning, and the answer to that is no.
No, I'm not. No.
president flat out said he'd never thought about it. That's a lie. Kellyanne Conway said he'd never discussed it. That too, Maggie, apparently a lie.
I mean, I don't know why you're zeroing in on Kellyanne Conway. There's a number of people there who were quoted, including his lawyer, Jay Sekulow, who, if last I remember, also said that we were wrong about the fact that the president had approved of his son's statement about a meeting with a Russian lawyer. He went on TV and insisted that was false. So this is a pattern and a habit, and we are aware of that. But it is a problem it's a problem for several reasons. One is, they will say at the White House it's not a crime to lie to the media, and that is true. But there are times when you need your credibility, and the fact that this was not true and that people who were denying it at the time have now acknowledged to me that it was true is a problem.
Yes, it's a problem. It's a big problem because Robert Mueller also knows about this. McCabe also knows about this. Sean Spicer knows about this. Steve Bannon knows about this. Reince Priebus knows about this because John McGann was asked to fire Robert Mueller. He wasn't asked. He was ordered to fire Robert Mueller. And all of Fox News was broadcasting the entire month of June to fire Robert Mueller. Jay Sekulow, the president's attorney. Now, what happened between the time that they asked to fire, that he ordered him to fire Mueller and McGann said no, and now, where they deny that they were even thinking about it, is they changed legal teams. Okay, Kassovitz quits after he finds out that there's no way that McGann will carry out the order to tell Rod Rosenstein to fire Mueller. Kassovitz quits and enter Ty Cobb. And Ty Cobb changes the strategy. The legal strategy now becomes, we're cooperating. Do you understand, Mr. President? At every turn, at every question, anything anybody asks you, because these clips are from August. In June, they're all on the TV screaming, we got to fire Mueller, got to fire Mueller. Kassovitz quits. By August, Ty Cobb is in place. He's the one with the handlebar mustache, and he's saying, oh, my God, you're making huge mistakes here. They're investigating you for obstruction of justice, and this arrogant, aggressive stance that you're taking towards Robert Mueller and the freaking FBI is adding, fuel to his fire. And quite frankly, all you're to say is we are cooperating. Do you hear me? Or I will not represent you. And so the entire thing becomes... instead of, firing Mueller.
All right, time for question of the day. Should the special counsel now be shut down? Yes, shut it down. Robert Mueller needs to go. Mueller needs to go. 100%. Mueller needs to step down, resign. The special counsel witch hunt ended. Mueller, he has to go. But I'm going to tell you right now, Mueller needs to get out.
Now, if you notice who he's talking to in almost every one of these, multitude of segments, this is not one segment that we mashed up. This is a month of segments on Fox News. Jay Sekulow is sitting there with every conversation. Jay Sekulow is the president's attorney. Don McGann is not. There is no such thing as a privileged conversation, Mr. Harvard, Mr. Scaramucci. What the hell are you doing in Davos talking on the TV at 4 o'clock in the morning anyway? Jesus. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Trump is in Davos saying it's fake news. Scaramucci at 4 o'clock in the morning in Davos is saying we accept the reporting. We accept. You never know. These people are just lunatics. This is crazy. This is psycho stuff. But I got to play you like the ultimate, okay? On June 12th, Chris Ruddy from Newsmax, who is a dear friend of Donald Trump, which, makes me sad for Chris Ruddy because Donald Trump has no friends, Chris. You and your rag over there, that Newsmax thing, it's right here in my town, okay? Newsmax is here. And a lot of the kids that graduate, that want to be in media, that want to do TV or want to do radio, they end up working there. And they hate it, but they do it. But Chris Ruddy went on public broadcasting. He went on with Judy Woodruff and said the president would like to fire Robert Mueller. This is in June of 2017. All right, just to keep it straight, Comey's fired in May. Comey testifies 2 times. May 9th was the second time. It was over that weekend. after Comey testified and would not clear Donald Trump, which is what Donald Trump wanted. He wanted a pledge of loyalty from Comey. And Comey goes to the Senate and he gives testimony. And he will not say that Donald Trump is not under investigation. Trump then leaves to go to Bedminster, New Jersey, to his golf club there. They bring him the tape. Too busy to watch it. They bring him the tape. He sits there, watches it, and stews over this tape and says, I made the decision. I'm firing Comey. That Monday in May, he fires James Comey. Rod Rosenstein is freaked out. Freaked out. 2 days later, Mueller becomes the special counsel. That's May, late May. June. The president wants Mueller fired because he doesn't want to be investigated, or the cover-up's going to be too time-consuming, or whatever it is. Chris Ruddy goes on Judy Woodruff's show on June 12th. Now, June 8th, I showed you Sekulow on Sean Hannity saying, yeah, Mueller's got to go. And then the entire month of June, there's a steady drumbeat of fire Mueller, fire Mueller, fire Mueller. June 12th, Chris Ruddy goes on PBS and says this.
You mentioned the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and you suggested, I think I heard you suggesting that there's a question about the purpose of his investigation. I want to ask you about that because there are some Republicans out there saying that Robert Mueller shouldn't be doing this job. Is President Trump prepared to let the special counsel pursue his investigation?
Well, I think he's considering perhaps terminating the special counsel. I think he's weighing that option. I think it's pretty clear by what one of his lawyers said on television recently.
That one of his lawyers said on TV recently is Jay Sekulow, who is an idiot. Scaramucci apparently went to Harvard and doesn't understand that the White House counsel does not have Donald Trump as a client. He has the American people as a client. The White House itself, the people's is the client. Donald Trump isn't, and therefore there can be no attorney-client privilege between Don McGann and the president. I mean, this is so messed up to have the chief law enforcement officer of the United States of America, who is the president of the United States, not understand anything about the law or even have a curiosity about finding out and claiming these privileges and that he didn't, but he did, but he didn't, but he did. I mean, like I said, my head spins. But Sean Hannity, oh my God, how do you do a 180? Like, within the same hour of your TV show when your head is shaped like a giant block. You are a blockhead, Sean. You are a stupid lapdog. And he said, yeah, well, I'm smarter than you because I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid. There isn't enough money in the world to make me lie like that. Life is very short. You go to meet your maker, you want clean hands. That's why McGann wouldn't do it. And he's a dirty guy, McGann. He's a seriously dirty guy. He's putting up Ku Klux Klan members for the bench. He's a Texas guy who writes articles about how transgender children are evidence of Satan's plan being carried out. Matt Peterson, he's the one that was humiliated. Did you ever do a jury trial? No. Have you ever done a deposition? Not by myself. I mean, these are the people that Don McGann is nominated, and he's handling all the justice appointments. So this is a real little snot nose. And where did he work? He worked at the Federal Election Commission prior to this, and then he worked for Jones Day, and he's trying to talk Donald Trump into going to Jones Day, the law firm, and give Jones Day the business of defending Donald Trump. He's still a lobbyist. He's over there lobbying for Jones Day to represent Donald Trump. Oh, God. This is such a sick White House. It's so sick and stupid and ill-equipped. And I'm telling you, Mueller, you got to hurry up because this is really happening. This is going to happen. I mean, I could go through the whole timeline and show you how long ago we knew about all... Because you got to remember why this happened. Just to refresh, okay? Michael Flynn was a dirty guy. He was involved in threatening to kidnap, oh yes, kidnap a Turkish cleric for millions of dollars for his client, the Turkish government. He never registered as a foreign lobbyist, ever. And he also had, taken money from the Russians and was quoted as saying it's only a problem if Trump wins. And never disclosed any of this and became our national security advisor when he was loyal to other governments to the point where he was actually considering kidnapping somebody and delivering them to the Turkish government, to Erdogan, who is an autocrat. There are films of Erdogan here in the United States, and Turkish protesters were protesting him here in the United States, and Erdogan's henchmen go and beat up American citizens, and nobody does a damn thing, and Erdogan's watching the whole thing. That's who Michael Flynn was loyal to. That was one of the foreign governments that Michael Flynn picked over the United States, okay? So Michael Flynn gets exposed by the newspapers. David Ignatius reports on January 12th, right ahead of the inaugural, that according to a U.S. senior government official, quote, Flynn was on the phone with Russian ambassador Sergei Kislyak 5 times. Well, he didn't have the number. He just said several times. Now we know it's 5 times in one day. And that one day was December 29th. And that day was the day that Barack Obama understood from the intelligence community that Russia had hacked the DNC and several state voter registration rolls, and that they were, doing this disinformation campaign on behalf of Donald Trump in the United States. And so he kicked out a whole bunch of Russian diplomats and took 3 Russian compounds, beautiful building, I mean, gorgeous houses, took away 3 compounds. Flynn is on the phone with Kislyak 5 times that day, assuring him that sanctions will come off as soon as Donald Trump is sworn in. Those phone calls are intercepted by the intelligence community. Flynn then apparently lies to Vice President-elect Pence and Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, and they go on the TV and they said sanctions were never discussed. Sanctions were never discussed. Sean Spicer has a briefing January 13th, and he repeats the misinformation, saying that the Flynn-Kislyak conversation never touched on the sanctions, never touched on the sanctions. January 15th, on Face the Nation and Fox News Sunday, Mike Pence repeats the sanctions had not been discussed. Priebus says the same thing on Meet the Press. No, Flynn, they're defending Flynn. Flynn never talks sanctions, never talks sanctions. Meanwhile, the whole time, the intelligence community's got the intercepted phone calls. The whole time, it's on freaking tape. Trust me, when Mueller explains everything, this is where it will start, the explanation, playing these tapes. And you will hear Flynn talking to Kislyak, and Kislyak in his Russian accent talking about sanctions to our national security advisor to be. Okay, after the inaugural on January 23rd, this is the first full White House press briefing. Of course, the whole press briefing was taken up with Donald Trump had the biggest inauguration crowd in the history of the United States ever, period, right? So that's what steals the show. But Spicer also said during that briefing that Flynn's conversation with Kislyak had touched on only 4 subjects. He wished him a Merry Christmas. He says only 4 subjects, and none of them were sanctions. That was a lie. On the 24th, 4 days into the Trump administration, FBI agents go to the White House and they interview Flynn about the intercepted calls with Kislyak, but they don't tell him that they have intercepted calls of him with Kislyak. And he lied to the FBI on January 24th, 4 days into. 2 days later, Sally Yates goes to the White House and she tells Don McGann, quote, about discrepancies in the intercepted phone calls and the public statements made by Pence and others saying that there were no discussions of sanctions between Flynn and Kislyak, but the tapes show something completely different. McGann briefs the president and a small group of senior advisors and then asks Sally Yates to come back to the White House, which she does on the 27th, and he wants to know what's the big deal if Flynn lies to people in the White House. What's the big deal if one administration official lies to another? Why is that a problem? Just because he lied to the FBI. And he's our national security advisor. You got to take action. You got to do it now. He's blackmailable by the Russians. What's wrong with you? And he doesn't. Don McGann keeps Flynn. 2 weeks he keeps Flynn. And he knows Not only did Flynn lie to the FBI, but he knows what he lied about, and he knows that the FBI have the intercepted phone calls, and so do the Russians, and that our national security advisor is blackmailable and does nothing.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
We have really reached a point of no return.
Cape Town, South Africa is about to become the first major city to run out of water.
We've decided to make France a model in the fight against climate change.
At Davos, U.S. promotes oil and gas, while France pushes clean energy innovation. Trump's big infrastructure proposal will bypass major environmental laws. Plus, California City becomes the 9th to sue the fossil fuel industry for climate damages.
Go California. All of those stories and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
We are now the #1 oil and gas producing nation on the face of the earth.
Yep. Thanks, Obama. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, Cape Town is about to run completely out of water?
That's correct. Cape Town, South Africa is on the verge of completely running out of water due to an unrelenting extended drought, the worst in more than a century. Cape Town city officials say water rationing has not reduced demand enough, so this week, Cape Town Mayor Patricia DeLille moved up day 0. That's the date when water is expected to run out, to April 12th.
We have really reached a point of no return. We can no longer ask people to stop wasting water. We now have to force them to stop wasting water.
When the water runs out, officials say they will deploy the police and the military to protect water distribution points for 4 million residents.
Is this a picture of what we might be seeing elsewhere in the world in the coming years?
Well, that is projected to happen with climate change. The World Resources Institute warned in its water risk report this week that 33 countries will face extremely high water stress by 2040, primarily located in the volatile Middle East. And the drought across South Africa is due in part to climate change that has altered weather patterns, according to another new study in the journal Nature Climate Change. Even if the world succeeds in meeting the internationally agreed upon target of limiting global warming to no more than 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, they still project that more than a quarter of the planet's land surface will become significantly drier overall.
You're always nothing but good cheer, Des.
Well, here's some more not good cheer. Here in the U.S., E&E News reports that the Trump administration plans to accelerate its deregulation push in its upcoming infrastructure proposal. It'll be framed as saving private developers time and money, but the administration will propose to speed up the permitting process for large infrastructure projects by eliminating major environmental regulation requirements like the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, the Endangered Species Act, and the National Environmental Policy Act.
Those pesky laws again.
A new Harvard study has found deep inequality in Americans' exposure to deadly air pollution. The researchers analyzed Medicare and Medicaid recipients and found that seniors on Medicare and low-income residents who qualify for Medicaid in the United States bear the brunt, with a much higher risk of premature death due to air pollution, particularly in minority communities.
And if this is based on Medicaid and Medicare numbers, I guess that means it's costing taxpayers more money in those areas.
Indeed it is. And as David Roberts of Vox notes, quote, rolling back air quality regulations does not reduce costs. It merely shifts the costs from industrialists to vulnerable populations.
Of course it does.
U.S. Energy Secretary Rick Perry was at the World Economic Forum this week, the annual gathering of world leaders in Davos, Switzerland. He was there to push advanced oil and gas drilling technology and U.S. fossil fuel exports.
The United States is not just exporting energy. We're exporting freedom.
Jesus, really?
Yes, really. In contrast, French President Emmanuel Macron promoted his nation's transition to clean energy and its innovations in renewable energy technology as the key to global competitiveness.
We've decided to make France a model in the fight against climate change. And that's, for me, a huge advantage in terms of attractiveness and competitiveness. Why? Because you can create a lot of jobs in such a strategy.
Wow, France has realized that fighting for the environment is a great way to create jobs. Go figure.
Finally, Richmond, California this week became the 9th U.S. city to sue the fossil fuel industry for damages caused by climate change, alleging that the fossil fuel companies knew their product would cause dangerous global warming, misled the public about it for decades, and therefore should be liable for billions of dollars in damages and repairs to its coastal infrastructure from rising sea levels along its 32 miles of shoreline.
And Richmond should know how dangerous fossil fuels are. Isn't that where they had that huge Chevron refinery explosion just a few years ago?
It is indeed.
For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Don't forget you can download our reports anytime via Stitcher, TuneIn, or iTunes. Find us, follow us, and share us worldwide on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
We believe that
believe it.
Who's there?
It's a figment of imagination. Turn your mind.
You mentioned the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and you suggested, I think I heard you suggesting that there's a question about the purpose of his investigation. I want to ask you about that because there are some Republicans out there saying that Robert Mueller shouldn't be doing this job. Is President Trump prepared to let the special counsel pursue his investigation?
Well, I think he's considering perhaps terminating the special counsel. I think he's weighing that option. I think it's pretty clear by what one of his lawyers said on television recently. I personally think it would be a very significant mistake, even though I don't think there's a justification. And even though, I mean, here you have a situation.
You don't think there's a justification for
a special counsel in this case, but also, I mean, Robert Mueller, there's some real conflicts. He comes from a law firm that represent members of the Trump family. He interviewed the day before, a few days before he was appointed special counsel with the president, who was looking at him potentially to become the next FBI director. So that hasn't been published, but it's true.
So he's overqualified.
And I think it would be strange that he would have a confidential conversation and then a few days later become the prosecutor of the person he may be investigating. I think that Mueller should have not taken the position if he was under consideration and had a private meeting with the president and was privy maybe to some of his thoughts about that investigation or other matters before the Bureau.
So you know for a fact that Robert Mueller was offered another position before he became special counsel?
I know for a fact that he was under consideration and that the president did talk with him in the days before he was named special counsel. I think there's a conflict there.
So let's get this straight. Here's the conflict. I interview with AT&T, who competes with Comcast for, for internet. So I go to AT&T and I interview with them, and then I realize Comcast does a better job. Somehow I'm not entitled to take the job with Comcast because I talked to AT&T the day before. This makes no sense, okay? They make no sense. But remember, this all started back before the president was even sworn in. This started because Michael Flynn made 5 phone calls to Kislyak, lied about it, and had been recorded. And the intelligence community, who routinely wiretaps Russians who are ambassadors to Vladimir Putin, heard Michael Flynn 5 times talking about sanctions on the phone. And he lied about it and continued to lie about it. And he lied to the FBI about it. And back then, we didn't really understand what the statute was. But now we know because Flynn has been charged with lying to the FBI and other things. And he's made a deal with Mueller. So all of this could have come from Michael Flynn. I mean, this is, but okay, so we're only up to, like the administration has started, right? And Sean Spicer gives the full press briefing, and Sean Spicer says, oh no, Flynn talked to the Kislyak, but all they did was, they talked about Christmas and their children. 4 subjects came out. None of them were sanctions. It turned out to be false. Right after that, the FBI goes to the White House. They interview Flynn. Flynn lies to the FBI, lies to them. Okay, 2 days later, Sally Yates goes to the White House to tell Don McGann, there's tapes. Your guy who's now national security advisor to the United States, to the president of the United States, is blackmailable by Russians. You must do something. You have to get rid of this guy. You can't show him classified materials. You can't show him presidential daily briefings. You can't show him intel. You can't show him anything to do with any strategies that the United States might have because he's aligned with foreign governments and blackmailable by them. And what does McGann do? First thing he does is he briefs the president and a small group of advisors. Then on the 27th, McGann says, Sally, come back to the White House. So Sally Yates goes back to the White House. And there are conversations between Trump and Bannon and Priebus and McGann, and they decide to be skeptical. They decide to say, well, let him stay. And they put Flynn out in February. And Flynn goes out publicly in February, on the 8th of February. And he denies discussing sanctions with Kislyak because he's still lying. He doesn't know he's been intercepted, and which is really, really scary because he was the former director of intelligence he was the DIA, okay, at the director of the intelligence agency, the big one that oversees all the other ones. And he doesn't realize that Kislyak's being wiretapped when he's talking so freely. Or maybe he thought since Trump was president, he would destroy tapes. Who the hell knows what Flynn thought? But he publicly denies it after Trump is president. And then on February 9th, the day after Flynn publicly denies the whole thing, the Washington Post reports that Flynn discussed sanctions on the call with Kislyak. And this is how Mike Pence learns about it. He's reading the newspaper. He's reading the Washington Post. And he knows he had just been on the Sunday shows denying that Flynn had talked sanctions because that's what he was told. But he learns from the Washington Post story that Flynn misled him. And this is what Pence's comment is. He said, Flynn misled me about the nature of his contact with a Russian official. Flynn then tells the Washington Post, I have no recollection of discussing sanctions, but I can't be certain the topic never came up. McGann calls Flynn in on February 9th, that same day, and asks him about it. And we don't know what he told McGann, but 4 days later, he resigns. February 13th. That's the day that Michael Flynn resigns. And that's because there were news reports about the White House knowing for weeks. Don McGann knowing for weeks. Bannon knowing for weeks. Priebus knowing for weeks. Trump knowing for weeks. That Flynn lied to the FBI about whether or not he spoke to the Russians about sanctions coming off, by Donald Trump. Donald Trump would make that happen. Sally Yates then goes on CNN to tell Anderson Cooper what happened when she went to Don McGann the first time, what happened when she went to Don McGann the second time.
There's certainly a criminal statute.
The production computer.
Implicated by.
Tell me when.
There's certainly a criminal statute that was implicated by his conduct.
Yates was asked to come back to the White House for another meeting with the White House Counsel on January 27th, the day after her initial warning. Yates disputes the way the White House is characterizing the reason for the second meeting.
Sean Spicer said that meeting was to discuss issues that were left unclear in your first meeting with Don McGann.
Do you feel that you were clear in your warning to McGann in that first meeting?
Yeah, I don't think there was anything at all unclear about the first meeting. Mr. McGann had some additional issues he wanted to discuss, but there was nothing unclear about the first meeting.
Can you say what the additional issues were?
Sure. There were 3 or 4 different things that he raised. You know, the first issue that he raised was essentially, why does DOJ care if one White House official lies to another White House official? And so we walked him back through the same things that we had discussed the day before, that it was really a whole lot more than just one White House official lying to another.
This was the Vice President of the United States being lied to, who then went in and told the American people.
Exactly. And then that we explained the compromise situation that this created again. So we walked back through all of those things.
So that's why the Department of Justice was interested, because of the underlying behavior, but also the potential for compromise.
Right. And we felt like
it was a national security threat.
Absolutely.
Okay. This is how long this has been going. We don't have a special counsel at this point. Okay, we don't. This is still back in February. This is February, 9th, 10th, 11th, whatever. She's talking to CNN. McGann has a legal conclusion that he comes to. And his legal conclusion is that there was no law breaking. There was no legal issue for him to deal with regard to Michael Flynn being our national security advisor and completely blackmailable by the Russians. McGann didn't even know what the legal issues were. Was it a Logan Act violation? Was a counterintelligence problem, developed there? Or maybe Flynn had lied to the FBI in his interview in the days before Sally Yates went to the White House, but he didn't know what the precise legal issues were. And yet he still had confidence that there was no legal issue. He actually concluded it was a trust issue, not a legal issue. And this is when I started to tell you Don McGann is dirty. Don McGann is not clean. There's something wrong with him. I even had some guests on the show that sided with Don McGann back then. I don't even want to name them because they were wrong, but it was just a disagreement. I said, Don McGann is dirty. You're going to see. Don McGann is and oh, no, I know Don McGann. He's a good lawyer and blah, blah. No, he's a terrible lawyer. The legality of Flynn's actions was not a call for Don McGann to make. When you lie to the FBI, that's for the Department of Justice to make that call, not the White House counsel. And I want to say it again. Donald Trump is not Don McGann's attorney. Don McGann represents the people. He represents the White House, the actual office of the presidency. And he's supposed to let the president know when the president is, denigrating the White House or running afoul of the law or that there's somebody in the White House who's afoul of the law. He doesn't protect the president. He protects the office of the White House from having people in the office who would break the law. And even if Don McGann believed that Flynn was completely innocent, he shouldn't be advising the president about an ongoing investigation that was focused on the national security advisor. He should have talked to the Department of Justice. But Spicer tells us that Don McGann advised the president that Flynn had done nothing wrong. And Spicer comes out at a press conference and says he's resigning because of a trust issue. We believe he wasn't honest with Mike Pence. No, he had lied to the FBI. And the FBI had, the intelligence community had tapes of him on the phone recorded. Okay, so that's in February. This is January and February, the first 2 months of the Trump administration. Now in March, from March to May, it all gets super bad. Because this is the period where pressure is building for Sessions to recuse himself because he was on the Trump campaign. And now in February, we learn that Flynn and other members of the Trump campaign may be under investigation by the intelligence community. And they may have had counterintelligence investigation going, which, as we now know, was true. And that the FBI itself could be investigating Donald Trump. Comey could be investigating, which we now know is true. And this is before Comey testified, right? This is in March. This is the January, February, March. This is the third month of the Trump administration. And people are saying that Sessions has to step aside. okay? Because there is a Russia investigation, and Sessions cannot oversee it. He can't, because he was part of the campaign. Don McGann again is called upon. Go tell Sessions not to recuse himself. Go make the case. Tell Sessions he cannot recuse himself. We'll end up with somebody else, and they will appoint a special counsel. Don't do it. Go tell him. Go tell him. McGann actually carried out that order. And he goes and lobbies Jeff Sessions to stay in charge of the inquiry. And that's in the New York Times, a Michael Schmidt article, where Don McGann it's known that Don McGann is lobbying, don't recuse yourself, don't recuse yourself. And the president goes crazy then. This is when the president says to Jeff Sessions and others, where's my Roy Cohen? Which was one of the dirtiest lawyers ever, who teamed up with Senator Joe McCarthy during the communist, the Red Scare activity.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Hey everybody, it's Brett from the Randi Rhodes Show. Independent media is the future, and Randi's leading the way. And it's ironic, the more freedom she gained, the more expensive it got. It's crucial now, more than ever, to keep this show pure and free of corporate influence so Randi can tell the hard truths. The first step to change is an unbiased media, and for that, we need your help. So please, go to RandiRhodes.com/support and subscribe, you bastards.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em. Yes, it's Herky Jerky in 2018. And for 2018, they're starting off with $5 off full packs of delicious beef smokies. Since Herky Jerky started in 1992, Herky Jerky's delicious beef smokies have been one of the most popular items, and for very good reason. The 100% beef meat sticks have just the right amount of snap on the outside and flavor on the inside. They're low cholesterol, high protein, guaranteed fresh, and the perfect snack for any occasion. This month, they're ringing in the new year with a discount of $5 off all full packs of their 3 kinds of smokies, mild, honey, and jalapeno. The full packs are 1.5 pounds. They include 30 long sticks. The discount applies to full packs only, but as always, if you buy any 2 packs of their products, you'll get free shipping. We hope everybody had a fun and safe holiday season, and we look forward to you enjoying Herky Jerky in 2018 with the absolute best and most delicious jerky anywhere in the world. Visit herkyjerky.com now. Again, herkyjerky.com, enter promo code SMOKY.
You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network, and here's a clip from Tara Buster with comedian Tara Devlin from RDTDaily.com.
If Ford had prosecuted Nixon and not pardoned him, then we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't have a Donald Trump today. This is the first time that a political party that's in control of all branches of government can't keep the lights on. And Republicans, I'm looking online, I'm seeing them. Their excuses, it's the Schumer shutdown. Did Schumer take protections away from dreamers? Did he not fund the chip program? No, that's the Republicans. Republicans, they set a trap and they want us all to fall into it. And the fact is, if Republicans did know how to govern, this great deal maker would have kept the lights on. I thought Trump was such a deal maker. The only reason he's upset right now is because he can't go have his damn party at Mar-a-Lago with all his rich friends. Because that's what it's about. We are being dragged through the manias of a madman. If he's not in prison by the time this is over, then we know it is truly done. But what does it say about us? What does it say? He may be a moron, he may be a madman, but why are we allowing it to continue? That says everything we need to know about us, not him. This is Tara Devlin from RDTDaily.com. That was a clip from my show, Tara Buster, recorded live every Saturday evening on the RDT Daily Facebook page and streamed simultaneously on YouTube and Facebook Live. Replayed Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern on Progressive Voices, or anytime on demand on the Progressive Voices app. Support RDT Daily and the Progressive Voices Network. Remember, we stick together, we win.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
The White House didn't get access to that underlying evidence described by Ms. Yates until Thursday, February 2nd.
They could have looked at it sooner.
Oh, yes, it was ready on Monday the 30th.
So you wanted the White House to act?
Absolutely, yes.
To do something?
We expected the White House to act.
Did you expect them to act quickly?
Yes.
There was urgency to the information?
Yes. I called on January 30th, that Monday morning, to let Mr. McGann know that it was ready. We had made arrangements over the weekend. That was one of the other issues that he had raised in this second meeting, was whether they could look at the underlying evidence that established General Flynn's conduct. And, this is really unusual for us or for the FBI to allow that. But
because
really
there is an
important.
ongoing investigation.
Right, but this was really important.
On that Monday, January 30th, 3 days after first warning the White House about Michael Flynn, Sally Yates was fired. She'd instructed the Department of Justice not to defend President Trump's executive order on immigration. Sally Yates was out, and Michael Flynn was still the national security advisor.
I mean, this just takes your breath away. So, there's obstruction of justice everywhere you look, beginning with, well, it wasn't just beginning with, but you had Sally Yates being fired because she tried to warn them that Michael Flynn was a foreign agent. She tried to tell them. And she gets fired, and Michael Flynn stays on as our national security advisor. I mean, this is crazy. This is really nuts. Okay, so now we're into March, and you've got Don McGann, who was warned by Sally Yates, who does nothing. Obviously, that's who she's talking about there. And then in March, you have Jeff Sessions being urged to recuse himself because there is a Russia investigation going on. There is an investigation into Flynn lying about the, his contacts with Kislyak and intercepted phone calls to back it up. And so Sessions cannot sit, as the overseer of this investigation, as the Attorney General. He can't stay in charge of the Russia investigation. So he's going to recuse himself. And Trump goes crazy. I mean, they have a meeting, and everybody's in this meeting, and Donald Trump goes crazy. Goes absolutely nuts. No, Sessions, you can't recuse, and he tells Don McGann, you go lobby him. You tell him he's staying. He is staying. Because I can't have somebody I don't know, somebody that hasn't pled, a pledge of loyalty to me, overseeing this James Comey. I can't. You tell him he's staying. He has to protect me. Trump said he believed that his top law enforcement official should safeguard him the way he brought up Roy Cohen, who was, a dirty mafia attorney, and then an attorney for Senator Joe McCarthy during the communist, the red lists and the Hollywood thing, the 50s, Anyway, he goes, where's my Roy Cohen? Where's my Roy Cohen? And then Sessions does recuse himself in March. Mueller isn't appointed until May. And that's when Trump knew he was losing control over this investigation. Now, what Robert Mueller was looking at in May was obviously Michael Flynn and Russia connections, and whether or not Trump obstructed justice by firing Sally Yates. And by this time in May, James Comey had testified 2 times, wouldn't clear Donald Trump, wouldn't clear his name, and Donald Trump decides he's going to fire James Comey. So now you have Sally Yates fired, and you have Flynn remaining, and now Comey, finally Flynn resigns. They say it's a matter of trust, not a matter of law, which is a lie, and we get Rod Rosenstein, and Rod Rosenstein listens to Comey testify. Donald Trump goes to Bedminster and watches tapes of Comey's second testimony in May. I believe it was May 9th. And that Monday, decides he's firing Comey. And that's when Mueller comes on board. Trump describes the Russia investigation as, quote, fabricated and politically motivated in writing, in a letter that he intended to send to the FBI director, James Comey, because he's so livid and he's going to fire him. The White House aides stop him from sending this letter, but Mueller has it. Mueller has it. Also, Mueller has handwritten notes from Reince Priebus that were discoverable and turned over to Robert Mueller subsequently, showing that Donald Trump talked to Reince Priebus about how he had called Comey to urge him to say publicly that he was not under investigation. It also said the president was determined to fire Comey, and it even led one White House lawyer to take the extraordinary step of lying to Donald Trump. He actually, this is like what Harry Reid said.
Give him fake briefings.
What does that even mean?
It means they'll tell him stuff. He won't know the difference.
That's what Harry Reid said about intelligence briefings, and he was correct. But Harry Reid is no longer in the Senate. However, this was during the campaign. One of the attorneys in the White House, I swear to God, actually lied to Donald Trump and told him that as president of the United States, he didn't have the authority. He didn't have the authority to fire James Comey. That was not true. He did have authority for cause. If he could prove that, James Comey violated the law, or James Comey was, double dealing or whatever, stuffing his pockets full of whatever, then he could. But the lawyers in the White House, this junior lawyer, actually, gave a false narrative to the president that he didn't have the authority to fire James Comey, to protect him from firing James Comey. And that's how you had to protect Donald Trump, by telling him you don't have the authority. Mueller also has a false statement that the president dictated on Air Force One in July in response to the Trump Tower meeting in June 2016. Mueller's got a lot. And all the things that Mueller has show corrupt intent. And that is why it's important to understand that this New York Times piece that was done by Michael Schmidt and Maggie Haberman is insanely good reporting that clearly shows that with malintent, with bad intent, with evil intention, whatever you want to call it, Trump wanted to fire Mueller. But he believed that Don McGann should get Rod Rosenstein to do it because Don McGann told him he didn't have the authority to do it himself. That much is true. Okay? But, it's just unbelievable. But Don McGann did tell Jeff Sessions, you don't have to recuse yourself. You don't have to. You should wait until the investigation's further along. Then, later you could recuse yourself. So Don McGann is as dirty as anybody. So it's interesting that Don McGann is now leaking to Maggie Haberman and Michael Schmidt and saying he's trying so hard to protect the president from himself. He's trying so. This is to keep. Don McGann knows he's in deep, deep crap, and he is. And that's why Don McGann is helping get these stories out. He's trying to distance himself. And if that's the case, this thing is coming very close to its end. At least the obstruction part is coming very, very close to its end. Now, remember, Flynn struck a deal with Mueller. So we don't know what Flynn gave Mueller. All we know is that what Reince Priebus gave Mueller. And we know he gave him the handwritten notes. We know that Mueller's got the letter that Trump wrote saying that, he wanted, Comey out because of the Russia thing. We know that he told that also to Lester Holt. I told you that tape was kryptonite. The minute he said it, I knew. That's going to sink him. But it's not enough, okay? It's not enough for a prosecutor like Mueller. He wants all of it. He wants everything. And the day that Mueller stands up and says, okay, we're going to have a press conference like Comey did to announce the close of the Clinton investigation and the reopening of the Clinton investigation, the day Mueller puts out the word that he's ready to have a press conference, oh my God, hold on to your hat. And you're going to hear all these tapes again, except you're going to hear Flynn talking to Russians. You're going to hear Sessions talking to Russians. He was confronted by intercepted phone calls that he was on, So Sessions is going to be caught dead to rights too. This is going to be unbelievable. But it's amazing that when Comey testifies the second time, well, Comey testified for the first time that the FBI was conducting an investigation. I wonder if you remember, he just said it in like one sentence. They asked him, is there an and he said, yes, I'm here, and I can confirm that there is an investigation into the Trump, the Trump campaign, and whether or not the Russians, they were cooperating with the Russians. So this infuriated Trump, and then they wanted Comey to testify a second time, and he did. And he did, but he still wouldn't clear Trump. And that's when he decided to fire Comey. But I got to tell you, this story is crazy. There was a lawyer in the one of McGann's deputies actually had to lie to the president about his authority to fire Comey because they didn't want him to do it, because they knew that this would start an investigation. If he wasn't already under investigation, then he would be now, because he had fired Sally Yates, he had fired Preet Bharara, and he had fired James Comey, and it was starting to look like obstruction. So they didn't want him to fire Comey. So the lawyer's name is Uttam Dillon. And he was convinced that if Comey was fired, that would be the end of the Trump presidency, because it would force the Justice Department to open an investigation into whether Trump was trying to derail the investigation. Now, Dillon is a veteran from the Justice Department. He's a lawyer from the Justice Department who always served there. And what Dillon did... Mr. Dillon did, he assigned a junior lawyer to look at the issue, and the junior lawyer decided that the FBI director was no different than any other employee in the executive branch, and that there was nothing prohibiting Donald Trump from firing Comey. And Donald Trump literally took the junior attorney's opinion over the senior Justice Department official who is now working for Don McGann at the White House, and decided to go ahead and do it. So Dillon got scared, and he went back to Trump and he said, you need cause to fire Comey. You need cause. And what this shows you is that the president's lawyers don't trust giving him the facts, because they fear that he's going to make a decision that's not, so they lied to him. May 3rd, Comey testifies for the second time. Over that weekend, Trump looks at the second testimony, the tape, goes to Bedminster, and fires James Comey. I'm telling you, I'm going through this whole timeline for you so that you can connect the whole story about what happened here. The Monday after that weekend, after James Comey testified, the Monday after that weekend, that weekend, you should only know that Trump sat at Bedminster in New Jersey at the golf, his golf club, and watched Comey's testimony on the, probably on the VCR, knowing Donald Trump, while it flashed 12 o'clock. But he watched it with Jared Kushner and Stephen Miller. And right then and there at Bedminster, New Jersey, he decided he was going to fire Comey, and he asked Stephen Miller to put a letter together that the president intended to send to James Comey to tell him he was fired, because Trump has an issue with firing people, apparently. So there was an interview with the New York Times, and the White House official said that the letter had no references to Russia or the FBI's investigation, but the letter's first sentence, in actuality, said the Russia investigation is fabricated and politically motivated. And this is why they were firing Comey. So publicly, they're saying it had nothing to do with Russia, but the letter itself says it does. That Monday, May 8th, after they come back from the golf club in Jersey, Trump meets with Jeff Sessions and he meets with Rod Rosenstein, and they discuss firing Comey. And Rosenstein was pressured into writing a letter outlining why Comey should be fired. But before writing it, he took a copy of the letter that Stephen Miller wrote during the weekend at the golf club. And he had a copy of the letter. Rod Rosenstein did. I wonder how Mueller got it. I don't know. Monday, May 9th, Comey is fired. A week later, we get the reporting that in February, Trump asked Comey to shut down the Michael Flynn investigation. McGann is protecting Flynn. Trump is protecting Flynn. Spicer is protecting Flynn. I don't know how much Spicer knew, but he's lying. He's lying. Everybody's lying. Meanwhile, there are intercepted phone calls in the possession of James Comey, gathered by our intelligence community. May 9th, Comey's fired. A week later, we find out that Comey was asked not to, to let the Flynn thing go. And the following day, after that New York Times report comes out, Rosenstein says, we got a special prosecutor. I just appointed Bob Mueller. That's how we got Bob Mueller. And that day, Trump loses his mind and starts screaming that if Sessions hadn't recused himself, none of this would be happening. And Sessions actually writes a resignation letter and gives it to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump sends it back with a handwritten note at the top to Jeff Sessions, resignation not accepted.
To speak to Randi, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
Randi Rhodes. Air Force.
Whether you're listening to me, Mark Levine, each Monday and Wednesday,
or me, Leslie Marshall, each Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday,
you can hear us 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Progressive Voices Network.
Here's a sample of what you'll hear.
U.S. Senator Tim Scott said he talked to fellow South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham about hearing President Donald Trump's S-hole countries comment, and Graham confirmed to him the president said it. First and foremost, a guy with cojones, Senator Dick Durbin. He was the first one to say, look, I was in the room and the president's lying. He didn't say the president misspoke. He didn't say, oh, the president must have forgotten, is mistaken. He said the president's lying. And I have to say, when anybody, left or right, will admit the truth, whether it's Donald Trump lying or someone else, I commend them for that. And I commend Senator Graham for doing so as well. Now, remember, folks, this was during a bipartisan meeting on immigration reform. One senator who was present and did hear the remarks, the great senator for the great state of Illinois, Dick Durbin, like I said, and he said Graham challenged Trump on his use of the slur. He said, quote, my colleague Senator Graham spoke up and made a direct comment on what the president said. He added, for him to confront the president as he did, literally sitting next to him, took extraordinary political courage, and I respect him for it. If you have Democrats and Republicans who are senators who really haven't lied to us, except for Graham changing his tune on Trump, and who has said he hated Trump and now doesn't because he's president, blah, blah, blah. Who are you going to believe? President Trump, in less than 365 days, almost 2,000 times tweeted falsehoods. So who are you going to believe, right? I don't believe the president. I think the president is lying. I think this rhetoric goes to the racial comments he has made against Muslims, against Mexicans, and pretty much anybody else who is an Aryan. And the fact that he says, why don't we have people coming from Norway? Well, think about it. Let's be frank here. We need people who are highly skilled in very high-tech jobs in Silicon Valley. Number one place where they have an IT school in every corner, Bangalore, India. People pretty brown there. He didn't mention India. He didn't even say China. India and China have the biggest and brightest math minds in the world right now, and they come here often for an education, and then we get to call them our own. They're certainly not Aryan or white, and they're certainly not from Norway. No offense to Norway, I would imagine it's a great country. Let's be honest, the reason he said Norway is because the people are white. Really, let's be honest. It's because they're white. We don't think of Norway as, booming in manufacturing. Norway, the people that invented everything scientifically. Norway, all the great films coming out of Norway. Norway, the greatest athletes coming. Come on. We all know what it was, that they were white.
Again, that's Mark Levine every Monday and Wednesday.
And Leslie Marshall each Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Progressive Voices Network.
I remember as a kid, the stereotypical things associated with girls were cooking, cleaning, fashion, interior design, anything to do with children, hair, makeup. But as an adult, I realize that the top earners in all of these professions are men. How did this happen? Well, it's one of the conversations we're going to have on my new show called She Persisted. I'm your host, Melissa Carter, and as a media personality, a lesbian, a single mom, and a patient with a chronic disease, I can tell you, I certainly have some opinions. And I know that you do too. So let's be part of each other's lives and talk these things out on She Persisted. It's at 8 a.m. on the East on the Progressive Voices Network and on demand on the Progressive Voices app. I would really love for you to be part of the show because I believe that together we can go from She Persisted to She Thrived. I hope you'll join me.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, and there you have it. That is the full timeline of how we ended up with a special counsel. And of course, it all goes back to Sally Yates trying to warn the White House that Michael Flynn was a dirty, dirty player, that he was a foreign agent, that he should never see intelligence reports, that he is beholden to Russia, that he's been intercepted on phone calls, that he's talked about sanctions being lifted, that he was part of a kidnapping plan to deliver a Turkish cleric who is living in Pennsylvania to the Turkish government in exchange for millions of dollars. I mean, this is such a dirty administration. Don McGann is a dirty dog, and he's trying to, help himself now. And that's pretty much how this story became, on the front page of the New York Times today. And these reporters, I got to tell you, if you don't know these reports, it's time for you to know their names. It's time for you to seek them out. It's time to read the New York Times. It's time to read the Washington Post. It's time to read the Wall Street Journal. It is. And for those of you who watch Fox News, here's my little challenge for you. They have been wrong so often. And so frequently. They're wrong. Yesterday, they were wrong about the secret society, okay? And they harped on it for the whole week. And they knew it was a false story. They knew it because I knew it. CNN knew it. Chris Cuomo knew it. Everybody knew that there were no missing text messages, that forensics were that there was a glitch with the Samsung phones, and the forensic tools were deployed, and that they were going to retrieve some of the missing text messages, which they did. And it turns out that the secret society thing was a joke because they were passing out during the early days of this investigation over at the FBI. They were passing out Russian calendars with Vladimir Putin's face on it saying we're part of the secret society. It was a joke. And Fox News did not, they wouldn't tell their listeners the truth. They wouldn't. So my question for you is, they're wrong so often. Tiller, the baby killer, he ends up dead. They start CNN is fake news. We have a shooter that threatens 22 phone calls. We're going to shoot Don Lemon. And using the N-word and anti-Semitic phrases. Then we got the secret society. There's a plot inside the FBI. You got craziness going on that channel. Now you got them. Sean Hannity had to do a 180 in the middle of his own damn show last
tonight,
night.
For example, they're trying to change the story. At this hour, the New York Times is trying to distract you. They have a story that Trump wanted Mueller fired sometime last June, and our sources, and I've checked in with many of them, they're not confirming that tonight. And the president's attorney dismissed the story and says, no comment, we're not going there.
That is not what he said, by the way. The actual quote from Ty Cobb is that he will have no comment out of respect for the special counsel. That's what Ty Cobb said.
And how many times has the New York Times and others gotten it wrong?
Whoops.
All right, so we have sources tonight just confirming to Ed Henry that, maybe Donald Trump wanted to fire the special counsel for conflict. Does he not have the right to raise those questions? We'll deal with this tomorrow night. We have a shocking video of the day to bring you, by the way. This footage comes to us from Arizona, where you see that red SUV, high-speed police chase.
Ooh, bam. That's a metaphor for his career and what's about to happen to it. No, I'm serious. I have to ask people who watch this swill, why do you watch something that is going to make you wrong on every issue every time? Why? Why would you choose to be wrong every single day? Every single day.
I know you've heard over the last 48 hours about the secret society.
Explosive new claims of an anti-Trump secret society.
Some sort of anti-Trump, quote, secret society within the FBI.
A so-called secret society of top FBI and DOJ officials.
It does suggest that there has been a massive scandal at the FBI.
Ron Johnson saying that he has evidence of an anti-Trump secret society.
Secret society.
What's the secret society?
A secret society to work against the president.
Secret society, the secret meetings offsite of the Justice Department. Correct.
The secret society.
Meanwhile, there are concerns about a so-called secret society of top cops committed to bringing down the president.
Secret society working against the president.
Senator Johnson is saying that he's trying to get to the bottom of it, as he should.
Secret society.
Well, absolutely. The secret society text, as well as the text earlier prior to the
about a secret society within days of President Trump's election.
A secret society.
Those reveal a secret society at the agency. At the secret society, and that was referenced.
I quote, secret society.
Secret society reference. There is a secret society reportedly.
A secret society working against our commander-in-chief. An anti-Trump secret society within the Bureau. Oops. We actually didn't give you 5 months, critical time period of text messages. And now we find out secret society.
Ron Johnson, the head of Senator, who's head of the Homeland Security Committee, suggested that the secret society referenced in these texts may have been an actual thing, and it may have met off-site, away from the FBI secretly.
The last thing is the secret meetings within the FBI. If that's happening,
secret society,
yeah. And they're doing that just to go against the president, we need to know about that.
Really? Secret societies? You can't make this stuff up. ABC News, they have obtained this particular text message, and they're actually questioning if it was all a joke. We'll let you decide.
It was a joke. It had to do with the early stages of this investigation where these agents were passing out Russian calendars with Vladimir Putin's face on it. And they were saying, are you really going to give out your calendars? Well, yeah, let's do it at our meeting of the secret society. I mean, this is just so ridiculous. And they're wrong all the time. And then screaming for Mueller to be fired over and over and over and over.
All right, time for a question of the day. Should the special counsel now be shut down? Yes, shut it down. Robert Mueller needs to go. Mueller needs to go. 100%. Mueller needs to step down.
I'm not going to make you listen to all of it, but you know what? It's just amazing. And they're always wrong. They make crap up. They just make it up out of whole cloth. There is no secret society. All the texts have been turned over. They never called for Mueller to be fired. The president never. The New York Times is trying to distract you. They want you to think that the president's been trying to fire Mueller. Jay Sekulow was on the TV saying, yes, we need to get rid of Mueller as early as June 8th, he was on the TV. June 10th, Chris Ruddy is on the TV saying, yes, he's considered it. Yes, but I think it'd be a mistake.
You mentioned the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and you suggested, I think I heard you suggesting that there's a question about the purpose of his investigation. I want to ask you about that because there are some Republicans out there saying that Robert Mueller shouldn't be doing this job. Is President Trump prepared to let the special counsel pursue his investigation?
Well, I think he's considering perhaps terminating the special counsel.
Holy crap, man. Really? Really? Why do you watch stuff that is so wrong all the time on everything? I mean, if you watched Fox News, you thought there were weapons of mass destruction. You thought that Saddam Hussein had chemical belts around Baghdad. None of that was true. And look at the sorrow and the horror from fake news. From fake news. Got a guy from North Carolina, literally with a semi-automatic weapon, driving to Washington because they tell him that there's Hillary Clinton's running a pedophile ring out of a pizza parlor in Washington. And he goes there and shoots the damn place up. You had Bill O'Reilly, that sexual abuser, sitting there every night after night, Tiller the baby killer, Tiller the baby, until somebody goes into that man's church on a Sunday and kills him. Now you got a secret society where people are going to turn against the FBI? Really? And it's so easy to show you how often they were screaming for Mueller to be fired, only to pretend that they had no clue that there was talk inside the White House that Trump wanted to fire Mueller. Oh, they're trying to distract you people. They're trying to distract. Why do you watch that? I can't for the life of me answer that question. Like, why would I want to watch or read something that I know is going to make me wrong in every argument I ever have with anybody who really does read a newspaper? Charlie in Los Angeles.
Hey, Randy.
Hi.
Real quick, small piece to the puzzle, I think. Isn't it Don McGann that right around this time, shortly after that, he was overheard by the New York Times reporters at that restaurant, and your thought was he was trying to get fired? He was trying to get laid off.
Well, yeah, he kept threatening to quit. I mean, he's been threatening to leave for, since the early days, Obviously, when he saw that Jared and Trump were meeting privately and trying to get their stories straight, he understood that he wanted to go. And, he said he would quit then if they didn't stop doing it. Now, this guy, it's like I said, if you work for Donald Trump, you've sold your soul to the devil, and the devil takes payments on the installment plan. You're going to pay and pay and pay and pay for the rest of your life just for working for that freaking foreign agent. Because
it fits right in with what you're saying, though, in that, well, if it's your idea, it's like what I do with my cat. All right, cat, if it's your idea, you can come up here. But when I try to do it, she wants to jump down and run away. So I feel like that fits right into the narrative, and your idea was that if it's Don McGann, or if it's Donald Trump's idea to fire him because he gets overheard, just like what you thought, then maybe it'll all clean, as opposed to him trying to resign. No.
Well, listen, when you think about it, why did Mark Kassovitz, who was Donald Trump's attorney for 17 years, right in this time frame, July 21st, okay, he resigns. And that's because he was the one that was spearheading the fire Mueller thing. And then when they decided, when McGann went, and said, I'm not going to ask Rosenstein to fire him, Kassovitz said, well, that's the only cure I have for this investigation is to actually fire him. Other than that, I can't defend you, so I quit. Right. Okay, and not only did Kassovitz quit, but the a key representative for Team Trump, a guy named Mr. Carrillo, Mark Carrillo, he quit at the same time. And when Politico asked him why did you quit, he said there's too much fighting all the time, and there's frustration, and they're trying to undermine the investigation, and I just can't be part of it. So.
Who cut it? Just a total side note. Who cut all those takes together? All the cut of the Secret Society.
Scotty did, I think.
Way to go, Scotty.
Yeah, Scotty loves it. Scotty loves what we call a mashup. Okay, he loves that.
Yeah, it's like 80 takes, 80 different cuts on that. Congratulations.
He's awesome that way. He loves doing it. It's like one of his favorite things to do. So he's great at it. Lavetta in Southern California.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, honey.
How are you?
I'm good.
You know what? Those people have marbles for brains, all of them.
I don't know why you'd want to be told the wrong thing all the time. Why would you want to be misled?
Me neither. I'd be upset. But the second reason I called was I watched MSNBC last night, and previously the special prosecutor for the Nixon case was saying that if he wouldn't have quit, they were trying to figure out how they were going to serve him with subpoenas. Donald Trump is not going to voluntarily go to the grand jury, so they're going to have to get a subpoena to give to him. I have an idea for you. I want Howie and Scotty to rent you out to Muller, because you can figure out how to get the subpoena to Donald Trump.
You want me to deliver the subpoena to appear? Okay. I would love to have that job. I would love to have that job.
I can see you hopping over the White House fence. And you have two qualities that he loves. You can take him fried chicken or McDonald's. You're female and you're beautiful.
Oh. God love you.
So
I'm
you
having
will
a
be able
very,
to-
very, 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 very huge birthday this weekend, and so I needed the compliment. Thank you very much. And can I just say on a side note, thank you to Adina's Cakery. Howard called to have them make me a special cake with a microphone on it and all this, and surprised me with it right before the show. Okay? And when he called Adina, and he told Adina's Cakery here in Delray Beach that it was for me, she made this really extraordinarily beautiful art cake. You know how people do it with the fondant and they put the microphone and everything on it? She did it for free because her and her husband are crazy listeners of mine. And Adina, the cake is over the top, crazy gorgeous, and she wouldn't charge Howard for it.
Delicious. Absolutely delicious.
So I just got to say that blows me away. Okay, so it's if you're looking for an art cake, like a really over the top, gorgeous cake that they make with the like what is those cake shows? Cake Master, what is it? Cake Boss. Yeah, if she does that kind of cake, it's adinascakery.com. Buy a stinking podcast. Go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.